Part 44. Solving the case is a little bitter, but my sister is super sweet. Author, Kisiun Jeon. Chapter 431. Above the reservoir. An old man and a young man were walking in the moonlight. Mr. Wang, how have you persisted for so many years? Lin Xian stopped and looked at the old man beside him with admiration on his face. From 2008 until 2017. Even professional special services may not persist to this extent. But Wang Liangxiu persisted with perseverance and determination. I also persisted until the end. I didn't insist. Wang Liangxiu's face was filled with a warm smile, and wrinkles bloomed at the corners of his eyes. I like scientific research very much, I like studying viruses, and I even like to pursue and explore higher fields. In this process, I learned not to get bored with anything and learned to put my time in meaningful places. Because when we come into this world, whether it is friends, lovers, or country, they are all the best gifts given to us by God. I think having them is the best thing. No matter what happens to me, I will generously pay for what I meet, what I see, what moves me, and what makes me sad. As long as I figure it out. Wang Liangxiu looked at the handsome young man in front of him. We will all have sunshine. Lin Xian's face was full of complicated emotions as he looked at the old man in front of him. He slowly raised his arms and performed a military salute. Wang Liangxiu was surprised, happy, and a little excited. He also raised his arms, imitating Lin Xian's behavior. Clumsily, he performed a non-standard military salute. One old and one young are all smiling. Smile like the blazing sun. I gotta go. Lin Xian suppressed his smile and said, I'll see you when I get back. Good. Wang Liangxiu nodded heavily, pay attention to safety. Why do you say pay attention to safety? Because he had already guessed what Lin Xian was going to do. Some people say, dogs bite people, but people cannot bite dogs. This is true. But we can beat the dog to death with a stick. Kimchi Country. Seoul and Yongsan bases. Under the night, an experimental base seemed to be swallowed by darkness. There was a pungent chemical smell in the air, which was in sharp contrast to the silence and gloominess around them. It seems that there is an ulterior secret hidden within darkness. Lin Xian's eyes were emotionless, numb, and cold. Taking steps towards the experimental base. Early next morning. Boom. Terrorist explosions occurred one after another throughout the Sam Country military base in Kimchi Country. Countless officers were swallowed up by the flames, and an experimental base was razed to the ground. The director of the Kimchi Country's National Intelligence Service and the highest official of the National Security Agency died tragically at home. All 6 members of the family died. Leave no chickens or dogs behind. The second day. All personnel related to the military base stationed in Kimchi Country, Sam Country, died one after another. Destroy all of them. The third day. Embassy of Sam Country in Kimchi Country. All senior officials died. Kimchi Country is in a state of emergency. The sixth day. The capital of the Dragon Kingdom. Lin Xian got off the plane and walked out of the airport. Zhou Lai's expression and eyes were extremely complicated. The two shook hands. Got into a car. Tico's car that carries the tripod. It was also the first time for Lin Xian to go to the legendary Special Branch headquarters. Taipool. In the old days, this place was called the Three Seas. At this time, Lin Xian was standing in front of a courtyard. The building in front of you is majestic and gives people a solemn feeling. In the courtyard, there are towering ancient trees and green shade. Every brick and tile reveals the vicissitudes of time and the weight of history. Walk into the courtyard. Lin Xian and Zhou Lai entered a long corridor. The two came to a hall, where a receptionist was waiting for them. Walking through the inner hall, I came to an office. When the office door slowly opened, Lin Xian was a little nervous. But when he walked into the office, stunned. The office is spacious, bright and simple. Behind a small desk, a short old man with white hair was sitting on a chair, wearing a pair of reading glasses. He looks like an amiable grandpa next door. When he raised his head, he looked at Lin Xian with a smile. It gave him a very kind feeling. Is this the legendary Tico carrying the tripod? Lin Xian was a little confused. Disappointed. The old man looked at Lin Xian and said, "Hello, my surname is Yu." Lin Xian stood at attention and saluted. Facing this old man, he didn't dare to show off. To put it more exaggeratedly, even if his grandfather, Mu Lao, made a big mistake, the old man in front of him has the right to investigate. Even at certain necessary times, necessary places, necessary actions. With just one sentence, the old man could take action against people of the same level as his grandfather and Mu Lao. This is Teiko within the Lord, and it is also the most powerful sword in the Dragon Kingdom. The person who can sit in Teiko's position is loyal to the country and the people. No need to go into details. Maybe everyone in the Dragon Kingdom has rebelled. The old man in front of me is also the last person to live and die with the country. Facing Lin Xian's salute, the old man stood up and returned the salute in a dignified manner. After all, Lin Xian is now the one who salutes without returning the salute. Running out. If Teiko is the strongest sword in the Dragon Kingdom, then Lin Xian is the most terrifying sword in the Dragon Kingdom. Mr. Yu still remembers it. The bosses above. He also used Lin Xian to beat their special team. Is it funny? Not funny at all. Because of Lin Xian's current strength, it's really possible to beat them to Tekoyan. There is a saying that is right, balance exists among all things. If there is yin in the world, there will be yang. If there is day, there must be night. Teiko's power is too great and too strong, which is not a good thing. There must be constraints and restraints. Mr. Yu was actually very grateful for Lin Xian's appearance. Otherwise, Teiko will most likely disappear into the long river of history. Because no one likes to see a knife hanging over their head and cannot deal with it. But there was an extra knife, and it was different. Is this true? Do you know why I want to see you? Yu Lao asked with a smile. Lin Xian said nothing. But at this moment, he felt a sense of urgency that there are many tricks in the other world. I want to return to Earth. If possible, he didn't want to play with these old officials. With their experiences and ups and downs they have seen, crushing you to death is like playing for fun. Let me ask you another question. Yu Laoxiao asked, what would you do if Tico made a mistake? Lin Xian was surprised and asked without any hesitation, what's wrong? For example. Yu Lao smiled, standing on the opposite side of the country and the people. Lin Xian looked directly at the old man for a long time, remained silent for a long time, and then said something. Lao Yu, I'm still a child. Ha 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 ha. Mr. Yu laughed loudly and nodded with a smile. He got the answer and waved his hand to Lin Xian. Lin Xian breathed a sigh of relief and turned around. Yu Lao smiled until Lin Xian's back disappeared. He stretched out his hand and touched the chair under him. Old man, you're about to have a new master. Solving the case is a little bitter, but my sister is super sweet. Author, Kisiun Zhong. Chapter 432. Ministry of Public Security. Minister's Office. Lin Xian took the tea from the secretary and took a sip. This is very comfortable. Thinking back to the terrifying pressure I felt in Tico not long ago. He felt that it was better to be in his own territory. I am indeed suitable to be a policeman. Lin Xian drank tea happily. The old man was looking at the little guy in front of him with a smile, but he was sighing in his heart. Unexpectedly, what was supposed to come would still come. The boss above couldn't wait any longer. The path is already being paved for this little guy. So, how long can Lin Xian stay in the Ministry of Public Security? 1 year? Or half a year? Or less time? The old man was even more emotional. It can be said that he is watching Lin Xian grow step by step. From a small policeman, he has reached his current height step by step. He didn't know what Lin Xian's ultimate dream would be. I don't know where this little guy will end up. The old man doesn't want to know now. I just want to watch Lin Xian continue to move forward as long as I live. Accompany this young man through the final journey. Underground parking lot. Zhou leaned against the car door, smoking a cigarette and looking at the little brother coming. Why haven't you left yet? Are you waiting for me to treat you to dinner? Lin Xian laughed happily. Don't think about it, I still want to go home to be with my sister. Zhou rolled his eyes slightly. It's not good for men to be too lustful. What else can a man do if he's not lustful? Lin Xian teased, are you okay? Zhou. Forget it, you definitely can't beat him by bickering, so just put up with it. Lin Xian rudely took away the cigarette case and lighter from Zhou. He took out one, lit it, and put the lighter in his pocket. This can't be tolerated anymore. Zhou stretched out his middle finger. We're all brothers, you're welcome. Lin Xian grinned. Have you ever thought that your time at the Ministry of Public Security is running out? Zhou asked tactfully. You can see it, don't you think I can't? Lin Xian looked directly at his brother, but you shouldn't ask this. Zhou's heart trembled. It's clear how terrifying my little brother's IQ is. You must have guessed something. I can't stay in the Ministry of Public Security for much longer. I know it. It's such a waste. Lin Xian blew out smoke and said, the superiors will not let me go to the military because my grandpa is here. They won't let me go into politics, because Mr. Yumu also knows that I'm not the material, and he will even waste my ability. They also won't let me go to the National Security Bureau, because my status is not suitable for frequent trips abroad, and it is impossible for me to be a special agent. The best place is to stay at home and protect domestic peace. Lin Xian looked at Zhou indifferently, with a matter-of-fact expression, so I met your big boss today, right? People like Mr. You cannot have contact with anyone. Lin Xian is also very aware of how sensitive his identity is. Under normal circumstances, he and Taiko's carrying tripod should never interact with each other till death. Two people who shouldn't have met. What does it mean? Zhou's heart trembled, and his head felt empty. I am amazed at Lin Xian's reasoning, and also at his IQ. Is there anything in this world that can be hidden from this little brother? You don't want to go? Zhou glanced at him and frowned. Yes. Lin Xian nodded, I have told you before that my dream is just to be a policeman. Brother, stop making trouble, Zhou grinned, the police profession is no longer suitable for you. Are you a bully? You are teaching me how to do things. Lin Xian rolled his eyes, I'm happy to do that. Ha ha. Zhou laughed, as if looking at a naughty child, okay, cherish it too. What do you cherish? My little brother's time to continue being a policeman is running out. No one can force me anyway. Lin Xian's tone and demeanor were like those of an old gangster. In the worst case, I will retire, run away, and live in seclusion in the mountains with my sister. Zhou laughed. Why are you retiring at such a young age and living in seclusion in the mountains? It is estimated that by then, Lin Xian would dare to be so rebellious. Mr. Lu and Mr. Mu will be the first to jump out. Break the little brother's legs. Zhou suddenly didn't envy Lin Xian that much. Because I was born in that kind of family. The roots are bright and the sprouts are red, and something has been imprinted on it. It's not whether you think about it or not, but there are certain responsibilities that you have to shoulder. No choice. The word involuntary seems to have come from this. On the contrary, People like him who come from a grassroots background can have free choices. I don't know if it's luck or misfortune. Who can tell? How should Mr. Wang handle it? Lin Xian took a breath of cigarette and asked. Zhou Lai said calmly, his contribution is too great, and his merits outweigh his faults. That's good, Lin Xian nodded. Don't you ask about your own merit? Zhou Lai was curious. Can you give me credit? Lin Xian asked with a smile. Am I worthy? Zhou Lai couldn't laugh or cry, he was very self-aware. I don't care anymore, I just know it's not enough. Lin Xian shook his head, there's still a little bit left, just a little bit. Zhou Lai looked serious and nodded. Lin Xian works so hard, and everyone who knows him knows why. Otherwise, Lin Xian's merits have long been outrageous. His level is even higher than the heavens. What else is not satisfied with? But it's really not enough, he wants to marry 2 women. The kind of marriage that is formally arranged. This is to break some kind of rules. So you have to work hard, to risk your life. You have to exchange more and more merits. Until one day, his merits are so great that they break the rules. Or a rule is specially customized for him. Zhou Lai knows what it is. Chapter 3 may not be enough. You must have great merits. It must be the first chapter of 5 chapters. Can you get it just by merits? Yes. A certain Northwest Field Army Special Merit Combat Hero winner has won it. Won 8 honorary titles, 1 special merit, 3 first-class merits, and 1 second-class merit. Indeed, great military exploits, earned with merits. The 8 honorary titles alone have already killed everything. And Lin Xian is now fully counted, including military and police honorary titles. He has only won 6. Even if he can win 8. Times have changed. Lin Xian has to work harder and earn credit. Maybe he needs to surpass them to be qualified to stand beside those top heroes. Only then can he win the first chapter. Are you tired? Zhou Lai asked with a smile. Tired? Lin Xian nodded, but the mountainside is too crowded, I have to go to the top to see. Lao Zi's ambition is very big, and he is not qualified to stop. Nothing can slow down his pace. Go all out, and die if you fail. There is no such determination. Why drink the strongest wine and sleep with the most beautiful woman? Zhou Lai's heart trembled. If you stop, the scenery may be beautiful. But if you keep going, you can soar into the sky. Youth is crazy. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Solving the case is a little bitter, but my sister is super sweet. Author, Kisiun Zhong. Chapter 433. The streets in winter are no longer as noisy and busy as those in summer. People can't help but slow down and savor the time of the season. Lin Xian parked his car at a barbecue restaurant. Looking at the streets with few pedestrians, he looked at the laughter of children not far away. The laughter broke the silence of winter and added some vitality and energy. Suddenly, several girls came and looked at Lin Xian. Handsome guy, can you add WeChat? Sorry. Lin Xian smiled and shook his head, I didn't bring my phone. Then what are you holding in your hand? A girl pointed at the phone in Lin Xian's hand with dissatisfaction. Lin Xian looked at the phone, this is a brick. Girls. One by one, they rolled their eyes at Lin Xian and walked away. But he didn't look at them. Instead, he looked at 2 beautiful women holding hands and smiling not far away. I have the wit that shouldn't be at this age, Lin Xian is proud. If I give my WeChat to those girls, I'll be beaten to death when I get home. Mu Qingtian rushed over. She gave him a kiss. She hugged her brother's waist and moaned. Lin Xian reached out and hugged Mu Qingtian's slender waist, lowered his head, and kissed her. Stinky baby, what did those girls want to do just now? Mu Qingtian blinked her beautiful eyes and asked knowingly. Start to make trouble. They wanted to be greedy for my body, but I sternly refused. Lin Xian said righteously, I said I will keep my virginity for you, do you think I am okay? I only know how to talk sweet words. Mu Qingtian was amused and giggled, and rewarded her brother with a sweet kiss. Why don't you go home? Mu Qingjian's eyes were warm and the corners of her mouth were smiling. Occasionally, eat something romantic outside. Lin Xian and her two sisters walked into the barbecue restaurant. In fact, he wanted Mu Qingjian to take a break. If someone pampers you, you have to learn to be caring for them. Walking into the store, Lin Xian helped the two sisters take off their coats and ordered barbecue. The two girls were smiling as their brother served them, enjoying the tenderness and thoughtfulness. Waiting for the barbecue to be served. Lin Xian was in charge of the barbecue, Mu Qingjian was peeling garlic, and Mu Qingtian was acting cute. The smiles of the three siblings were filled with sweetness and tenderness. Eating barbecue, drinking wine, and laughing. After dinner, they went shopping and watched movies together. Enjoying each other's company and experiencing the fireworks of the world full of happiness. On the way home. The new year is coming soon. Mu Qingjian reminded her brother softly, prepare gifts. Only for the elders, Lin Xian looked at her. Mu Qingjian was slightly angry, what other children have, you will also have. Haha. Lin Xian smiled. What about them? Mu Qingtian looked at her sister angrily. How old are you? Mu Qingjian gave her sister a sanitary look, how dare you snatch a gift from your brother? Mu Qingtian turned into a crying monster, hugged her sister and hummed, her seductive eyes flickering with hope. Buy it yourself, Mu Qingjian glared. Stinky baby, look at her. Seeing that acting like a spoiled child didn't work, she subconsciously grabbed Lin Xian's arm and tried to sow discord, you should divorce her soon, and then we will elope. Sister promises to be good to you alone. Lin Xian. Mu Qingjian. The little demon is very bad. Lin Xian glanced over. Mu Qingjian softened her heart and sighed. I must kill them in the next life. That's what she thought the second before. The next second, her brother's lips and her sister's little mouth kissed her cheek. Mu Qingjian's beautiful eyes became hazy. Walked into the alley on the way home. Lin Xian said something, his tone was a little sad, maybe soon, I can't be a policeman anymore. Huh. The sisters stopped and looked at him in surprise. My strength doesn't allow it. Lin Xian muttered, pretending to be cool. But it was also true. He just pretended, the two sisters rolled their eyes at him. Change to a new environment. Mu Qingjian's vision was still very high. Knowing Lin Xian's ability, he was indeed no longer suitable for being a policeman. Yet, Lin Xian had nothing to hide, I can spend more time with you guys then. Really? Mu Qingtian was happy and excited, and wanted to roll over happily. She didn't want to care about anything else, she just wanted her brother to accompany her every day. Are you happy? Lin Xian rolled his eyes at her, then you can be a heartless, lazy, gluttonous, and arrogant little woman, bullying your brother all day long, right? You are annoying, smearing others. Mu Qingtian rolled her eyes at him charmingly and threatened, be careful to break up with you, are you afraid? Slap or not? Not so good, this is the street. I am not such a casual person, Lin Xian nodded, snap. Haha. Mu Qingtian was beaming with joy, so proud, I knew you couldn't live without your sister. No, you misunderstood. Lin Xian laughed dryly, my wife is in your hands, I'm afraid you will take the money away. Mu Qingtian. Haha. Mu Qingjian on the side almost laughed to death, his brother was too bad. You bastard, will your sister care about your little money? Mu Qingtian's face flushed with anger, and she punched Lin Xian, gritting her teeth. Beat you to death, you heartless man. Then are you going to be a bitch? Lin Xian held his head and laughed. Of course I am. Mu Qingtian blurted out, and was stunned after saying it, and forced a quibble. Do you want to raise a little vixen? Is there anyone more vixen than you? Lin Xian hugged her slender waist and blinked. Mu Qingtian was so proud that she hummed, really? Do I really look like a little vixen? Lin Xian rolled his eyes. Yes, yes, you are a little vixen. Then let me ask you a question. Mu Qingtian smiled. If your current girlfriend is not us, and you meet us, will you cheat? Damn, this life-threatening question is a bit advanced. Lin Xian was stunned and looked at Mu Qingtian. Mu Qingtian smiled but didn't say anything, wanting to see what answer her clever brother would give. Finished, Lin Xian's CPU is a little smoky. The enemy can obviously beat you directly, but he throws you a question that will kill you. What to do? At this point, let alone calling sister, it is probably useless to call mother. How about? Lin Xian rolled his eyes. Before I met you, I didn't have a boyfriend. The two girls smiled and looked at him. Sir, their way of killing has changed again. Lin Xian smiled bitterly. Don't you answer. Don't pretend. Mu Qingtian pinched his cheek. I know you already have the answer. Mu Qingtian also pouted. Don't we know you yet? Lin Xian was stunned. Smiled, stretched out his hand, and hugged them in his arms. Yes, he already had the answer. Not betraying is my bottom line. If it weren't for you, it would be my regret in this life. Solving the case is a little bitter, but my sister is super sweet. Author, Kissy. Chapter 434. Walked into the house. Warmth came over me. All the fatigue on Lin Xian's body was swept away at this moment. Accompanying the two sisters on the sofa for a while. Stand up and say, I'm going to pee. Vulgar. Mu Qingtian smiled and said, can't you be more elegant? Elegant. Lin Xian rolled his eyes. I'm going to shake hands with a good brother, and I'll introduce him to you later. Stinking hooligan. Mu Qingtian picked up the pillow on the sofa and threw it to her brother with a charming smile. Is this a hooligan? Lin Xian caught the pillow and threw it back, and walked towards the bathroom happily. But I don't know who it is, always likes to kiss me with a big bearded old man. That's called a hooligan. After returning, I found that the two sisters were watching TV. Heaven's Sword and Dragon Saber? It's really the new year, and the students are on vacation. I still remember when I was a child, when school was on vacation. The second brother will definitely appear on TV. Journey to the West and Heaven's Sword and Dragon Saber, is that right? Look, stinky baby. As soon as Lin Xian sat down, Mu Qingtian leaned against his arms like a little bird, pointing at the TV. Why does Zhang Wuji have to take off his clothes to transfer his inner strength to a woman, but a man doesn't have to? I advise you to mind your own business. Lin Xian's mouth twitched. Women should not ask about men's affairs. Tisk. Mu Qingtian glanced at him. You boys are only shivering and hungry, that's all you can do. I don't accept it, girls are more lustful than men. Lin Xian deliberately disgusted her. I don't accept it either. Mu Qingtian wrinkled her nose to protest, unless you convince me. The convince she said was shuafu. Do you want to sleep with me? Lin Xian smiled evilly. Let's go back to the room and sleep with you now. Tonight is long, no need to beg for mercy, I will not let you go. Ha ha. The two sisters laughed and hit him. You don't mention lust at all. Mu Qingtian smiled and pinched his face. It's a must. Lin Xian bared his teeth. I can't stand gambling and drugs, no, I'm not as lustful as her. You're annoying, but I'm not a little slut. Mu Qingtian pretended to be serious, hugged her brother's neck and flirted. I'm slow to warm up. Old scumbag, Lin Xian almost laughed and choked, kissing her lips. Luckily I found you in time, otherwise you would become a tea art master. But men are sometimes cheap. All like their girlfriends to be like queens outside, like sisters at home, and like dadgy in bed. If you have different ideas, you are definitely a heretic. You only know how to bully your sister. Mu Qingtian kicked her long legs. Lin Xian held her white feet. He started playing with them. When the siblings' eyes met, their eyes began to draw silk and knit sweaters. Mu Qingjian was too lazy to pay attention to them and continued watching TV. Lin Xian didn't let her go. He leaned over and lay on her long legs, deliberately asking, "Sister, if you had found out that I was a greedy and lustful man, would you still like me?" Mu Qingjian was surprised that he would ask such a question, and nodded, "Yes." Ah! Lin Xian hugged the little fairy in his arms and looked at her in surprise. Why? Because any sensible woman will choose a greedy and lustful man. Mu Qingjian stroked his short hair with her white palm. This is the nature of men. Greedy and lustful are the 4 words that come out of the mouth. It may sound bad, but if you think about it, it is definitely not a dirty word. Under the premise of not breaking the law, greed for money shows that he is ambitious and motivated, and being able to make money shows that he is capable. Being lustful also shows that a man has normal aesthetics. A man who can be lustful shows that he has the ability to be lustful. If he doesn't have the ability, can you be lustful? If a man regards money as dirt and is not tempted by beauty, then he does not belong to this world, he is not a normal person, and it also shows that he does not have the ability to make money and be lustful. The world is sober, my goddess. Lin Xian was a little shocked. The nature of men is greed, lust, and bragging. The whole country is unified. If anyone does not admit it, he is not only a heretic, but also a braggart. Of course, if you insist on saying it more elegantly, change the words. This is called talking about career, love, and ideals, isn't it? Since all men are the same, why did you choose me? Lin Xian was full of confidence. Is it because I am more handsome? Ha. The sisters laughed so hard that they were shaking. He. Lin Xian smiled proudly. You really are attracted by my beauty, so annoying. The 2 sisters laughed so hard that they were out of breath and punched him a few times. This stinky shameless guy. Only he can say such a boastful thing. What if you are not sisters? I am in love with you, but I cheated with Sister Qingtian. Lin Xian was walking the woman's way and asked a fatal question, what would you do? Want to see how the sober Mu Qingjian would answer? You like it, what does it matter? Mu Qingjian touched his cheek and smiled softly, as long as you can always be good to me, you can do whatever you want. As long as I can always be good to you, even if you fly to the horizon, you will still fly back. My sister is awesome. Lin Xian was completely stunned. She is the one who understands love. Compared with the goddess, he found that he was just a little monk. This is more than controlling a man. It's just like putting a collar on a man. Lock him up for life. Lin Xian looked at the enchanting fairy in his arms. He raised his head again and looked at the gentle goddess. He sighed and gave up treatment. They can do whatever they want. What if they put a collar on him? They have always been good to you. Night. The night outside the window is like ink. The bedside lamp in the bedroom emits warm and soft light. Soft quilts and pillows are neatly placed, exuding a faint fragrance. After taking a bath, Lin Xian climbed onto the bed and hugged Mu Qingjian's waist. Buried his face in her arms like a child. Mu Qingjian's heart skipped a beat and she hugged his head. Gently caress, comfort. Comfort. Mu Qingjian couldn't feel it. But she could sense Lin Xian's helplessness. This brother had never thought of taking off his police uniform. He had been forcing himself to smile all day. he just didn't want them to see it. Can't bear to leave. Mu Qingjian's voice was full of maternal love. Every note was full of gentleness and tenderness. Ya Linxian responded in a muffled voice. If you can't bear to fight against violence and protect the good, then don't leave. Mu Qingjian rubbed his head and smiled, as long as you don't want to, who can change your mind? Linxian sighed and hugged her tightly. On one side is fighting against violence and protecting the good, on the other side is protecting the country. But it's hard to have both. Perhaps regret is the norm, and imperfection is life. Solving the case is a little bitter, but my sister is super sweet. Author, Qixiunzhong. Chapter 435. 30 years old. The sun shines on the busy street. The crowd was bustling, and everyone's faces were filled with festive joy and anticipation. The streets are decorated in festive red and are very lively. Red lanterns, red couplets, and red firecrackers are everywhere filled with the strong flavor of the new year. Linxian and her two sisters are shopping, carefully selecting gifts for the elders. The shops on both sides of the street are filled with various New Year goods and special snacks, attracting passers-by to stop and watch and buy. Children chased and played in the streets. The sound of laughter and firecrackers blend together, adding more joy and excitement to the festival. At night, Linxian took his two sisters to Mu's house first. Had dinner. Linxian and the Mu sisters knelt in front of Mr. Mu and the old lady, kowtow and salute. The second elder had a smile on his face and gave the three little guys big red envelopes in advance. No, not a red envelope. There are 3 pieces of concentric locks inside. According to legend, Yu Lao had a treasure called the concentric lock. As long as a man and a woman in love are locked together by the same heart, they will never be separated. Let lovers be united forever from now on. I paid homage to the 2 elders. The third sister and brother kowtowed to the Mu family couple again. In fact, they are all adults, so there is no need for this. But Linxian will take his 2 sisters home tonight to celebrate the new year and reunite. I feel somewhat sorry for the Mu family, but I still have to show the proper attitude. 10 at night. Linxian took his 2 sisters to his grandfather's house, presented gifts and sat there for an hour. Grandpa and Grandma gave each of the 3 little guys a jade ring. 1 carved dragon and 2 chasing phoenixes symbolize the long-term relationship between 1 dragon and 2 phoenixes. When the 3 siblings returned to the Lin family together, Lin Dong and Lu Yunqing looked at their children with smiles on their faces. The family sat together, making dumplings and watching the Spring Festival Gala. 5, 4, 3, 2. It's Chinese New Year. Fireworks bloom in the night sky, lighting up the city with colorful colors. Firecrackers echoed in the streets and alleys, deafening and resounding through the sky. 3 women went to make dumplings. It's rare for 2 men to look like great men, happily waiting for the women to serve them. Happy New Year, Dad. Linxian looked at his dad and blessed, 1 I wish Dad good health, 2 I wish Dad no worries, 3 I wish Dad a good waist. Okay, Lin Dong laughed heartily. What's better, WeChat or Alipay? Linxian took out his mobile phone and bared his teeth, 1,000 or 2,000 is never too little. Lin Dong. We are father and son. Isn't this bad for you? Although my heart is sad, angry, and sad. But reason told Lin Dong that he should retreat strategically at this time. That what? Lin Dong stood up with a smile, Dad, go take a shit first, you wait. Hee. Linxian pouted, you are a professor, can't you speak more elegantly? This. Lin Dong's smile faltered, then should I say that deep love cannot be retained, or is Xiao He going to show off her sharp corners? Haha, Dad, you understand metaphors. Linxian laughed, no, you understand poetry. He is indeed a professor. If this nonsense becomes popular, there will really be no one left. Sit down. Lin Xian pulled his father to sit down and teased, don't I know whether you have money or not? Last time. Dad has given them all his private money. My mother also gave them all their savings. Those 2 cards are now in the hands of 2 sisters. The moment Lin Dong sat down, he looked at his hands in surprise. A stack of money, at least 10,000 yuan. He was stunned. I make more than you now. Lin Xian looked at his father, I can support you, it's not my sister's money. This is not bragging. His bonus for meritorious service has reached a very large figure. Moreover, Lin Xian's achievements, such as military achievements, were almost all done during war. Military merit bonuses in wartime and peacetime are 2 different concepts. Those military and police officers have already received over 1 million bonuses just for their merits. I can indeed afford to support my parents. The Mu sisters are rich, that's their money. When they spend money for their parents-in-law, they are filial. It's 2 different things than the money you give to your parents. Men are like this sometimes and can't eat anything soft. The coldness in their bones made them all suffer from arthritis. I can't lick it even if I kneel down. Lin Dong was still stunned, looking at his son. Although this was the first time Lin Xian gave him money. Just because it was the first time, I felt an indescribable feeling of relief and satisfaction in my heart. It also filled his heart with emotion and excitement. My son has grown up. Know how to honor your parents. This is his greatest pride. You and I have not fallen to the point of using Junior's money. After coming back to his senses and putting the money back into his son's hand, Lin Dong smiled and scolded, who are you looking down on? As expected of a father and son. Whether it's the pride in his bones or the way he speaks. They are all printed from the same mold. Ha ha. Lin Xian laughed loudly, put his arm around his father's shoulders, deliberately teasing him, and whispered, how about we use this money to go see each other and start a romance? What, shit? Lin Dong suddenly became serious, acting like a wise man, I am a university professor, a gardener of the motherland, a man of 8 feet tall, how can I be moved by beauty, ha ha. Lin Xian, Omega. Dad, are you acting? No, this rhythm is wrong. Suddenly, he felt 3 murderous auras behind him. Damn, Lin Xian was sweating and almost knelt down. Dad, you are cheating me. Hung Glangman, is it fun? Lu Yunking's words sounded coldly in his ears. Mother-in-law, look at him, he is so bad. This Mu Qingtian is fanning the flames. Find something, it won't hurt him with bare hands. This is Mu Qingjian, who is very cruel. Dad, wait for me, Lin Xian, who wanted to cry but had no tears, squatted on the ground with his hands on his head. Lin Dong turned his face away. Son, you have suffered, go with peace of mind, Dad will burn more for you. There was a burst of laughter. Lin Xian was also beaten by his mother and 2 sisters. The family happily ate the New Year's Eve dinner again. After dinner, the Mu sisters accompanied their mother-in-law to take a bath, and then changed into new clothes. Lu Yunqing changed into a cheongsam, like a noble lady. The Mu sisters also changed into horse-faced skirts. The skirts were flowing, just like beauties in the ancient palace. Both father and son had new clothes. Lin Dong wore a Confucian robe. Lin Xian changed into the same narrow robe as his 2 sisters. The 3 siblings knelt in front of their parents respectfully. Kowtow, wish a happy new year, thank you. Lin Dong and Lu Yunqing held each other's hands. Looking at the children in front of them, it would be a lie to say that they were not excited. The scene in front of them was only imagined in dreams in the past. Joy, relief, and endless expectations for the future. They have begun to look forward to the day when the little ones get married. Perhaps, when they see it, there will be no regrets in this life. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Solving the case is a little bitter, but my sister is super sweet. Author, Kisiun. Chapter 436. The first ray of dawn of the new year appears on the horizon. The morning breeze brought with it a hint of coolness, blowing away the hustle and bustle of last night. After watching the New Year's Eve, Lin Dong and Lu Yunqing went to bed as they were old after all. Lin Xian and the Mu sisters walked out of their parents' house. The streets are still filled with a faint smell of firecrackers. It was the aftertaste of last night's celebration, reminding people of the arrival of the new year. The faces of the three siblings were filled with smiles of joy and happiness. Mu Qingtian was like a child, holding a small firework in her hand. Dancing and drawing circles in the air, jumping up and down happily. Who would have thought? This woman has extremely good skin and looks like a girl, but is extremely beautiful and charming. Already 29 years old. Grandmaster will not deceive me, Lin Xian sighed inwardly. Women are very evil creatures. The advantage is that the more you pamper her, the younger and more childlike she becomes. The bad thing is, the more childlike she is, the more she likes being you. Be coquettish, be cute, be playful, be mean, be cool, be proficient in everything. Look at the goddess next to you. Mu Qingjian was different. Now she had lost her coldness and nobility and had long since become soft and gentle. She seems to have a maternal halo around her, and she likes her younger siblings to act coquettishly in front of her more and more. She is like a little mother when she serves them. You run into her arms, moan twice, and then act coquettishly. The bones of her body become soft, allowing you to do whatever you want. I like this the most. After setting off the fireworks, Mu Qingtian ran back, hugging her brother and humming. After a night of noisy, the little goblin was yawning and tired. Lin Xian held up her little butt with one hand, like holding a wombat. Let her sleep in your arms for a while. Holding Mu Qingjian's hand with the other hand, they continued walking on the street. Sister. Lin Xian murmured. Mu Qingjian looked at him. Help me introduce a girlfriend to Zhan Xiaoyang. Lin Xian smiled and said, this guy misses women. Okay, Mu Qingjian smiled. She had met all her brother's colleagues, and Zhan Xiaoyang was also very impressed. A little funny guy who likes to bicker with Lin Xian. But every time she was pushed to the ground and rubbed, she was a dishonor and she still loved to play. You don't even ask about his character. Lin Xian breathed a sigh of relief and pretended to be profound. Need not. Mu Qingjian brushed her hair from her cheeks, revealing her beautiful profile. If you can be a police officer, no matter how bad you are, you can't be that bad. Lin Xian was happy. I will. Mu Qingjian expressed her acquiescence with a smile. Aren't you curious why I helped him? Lin Xian shook her hand. Is there a story? Mu Qingjian smiled lightly and held his hand tightly. Actually, this guy is quite infatuated. Lin Xian sighed. He told me a few days ago that a female classmate got married and invited him to the wedding. That day, he kept looking at the female classmate who became the bride. At the end, he watched the bride throw the bouquet to him. The female classmate said to him, "Come on, it will be your turn next, you must meet the person you like quickly." After receiving the blessing, Zhan Xiaoyang said that he smiled and suddenly felt a little sad when he looked at the wedding dress on his female classmate. He said he thought about junior high school and high school. I still remember that he secretly applied for the university where his female classmate went and chose the same major as her. He said that actually the person he likes, he has met a long time ago, but he just never likes him. Mu Qingjian nodded. Don't ask Zhan Xiaoyang if he is a coward. He only dares to have a crush on her and does not dare to pursue her boldly. He must have been chaste. Also, women are very sensitive. This is like when you are close to a stove, don't you feel the heat? I just don't like it. That's when I realized that this guy was not only the ultimate little bitch, but also a crazy person. Lin Xian smiled and shook his head. I said I couldn't find a girlfriend, but in fact I never let go. Fine. Mu Qingjian raised the corners of her mouth and smiled brightly, like the morning sunshine. He is a good man. Good man, Lin Xian thought for a while and nodded. Because girls like this kind of man very much. If you change your mind when you see something new, you will forget even the people you liked in the past. Do women really dare to want this kind of man? Sometimes being a little liquor is a plus in the eyes of women. For example, a girl seems to like you to treat her gently. In fact, in my heart, I want you to hold her neck with one hand and forcefully kiss her, while the other hand will protect her head. Gentleness and roughness are not in conflict. Don't you want to hear my story? Lin Xian deliberately made a malicious fishing expression. Your story? Mu Qingjian bit her lower lip lightly, her eyes became gentle, and the corners of her mouth raised. Okay. Her traitor is going to be naughty again. I have had a total of 6 girlfriends over the years. Lin Xian looked at her with a sincere expression. The smile on Mu Qingjian's face stopped and disappeared. Just look at him quietly. The scariest thing is the first one. Lin Xian held back her laughter. She is aloof and proud, like a queen. Mu Qingjian was slightly stunned and realized something was wrong. Compared to some little girls, she is mature and stable, and she doesn't seem to care about anything. Lin Xian continued, the second one is a woman who can do housework and cook. Compared with the cooking skills of the ant in the police academy cafeteria, she is almost becoming my goddess. Mu Qingjian curled her lips. What is the third one like? The third one has a bad temper and is very cruel. She will beat me. Lin Xian smiled softly and warmly. She told me not to throw my socks and underwear around, and taught me to wash my underwear separately from other clothes. She also didn't let me stay up late to play games. She was so bad. Haha. Mu Qingjian smiled. What about the fourth one? The fourth one is perverted. Lin Xian's face showed a sly smile. She learned to hug me to sleep at night and pat my back, singing to me to coax me. I am a 185 centimeters tall and rough man. How can I lie in a woman's arms and coax me like a child? Do you think she is a little perverted in her heart? Really perverted? Mu Qingjian covered her red lips lightly and laughed foolishly. Isn't it that some rebellious son likes it and wants to be a child? The best one may be the fifth one. Lin Xian stared at her straight. Someone said before that feelings are the most fickle thing in the world, and later I found out that it is true. My fifth one is very fickle, but I found that fickleness is not a bad thing. She becomes better, and becomes the one you want most, and the one you can't leave. Mu Qingjian's mouth showed a sweet smile. It seems to bring endless warmth and brightness. Leaning gently on his shoulder, like a little bird. Why didn't she ask who the sixth one was? The fairy sleeping soundly in the arms of the rebellious son, isn't it? He, greedy man. Solving the case is a little bitter, but my sister is super sweet. Author, Kisiun. Chapter 437. The second day of the first lunar month. Also known as the Visiting Relatives and Friends Day. Lin Xian took his 2 sisters to his grandparents' home, the old man of the Mu family, and then went to pay New Year's greetings to his father-in-law and mother-in-law. He paid New Year's greetings until the 7th day of the first lunar month. Lin Xian stood in front of the Master of Psychology, Mr. Qian. He performed the disciples' etiquette respectfully. Once a teacher, always a father, this may be a bit exaggerated. But for Mr. Qian, Lin Xian really treats him as a teacher. He will come to Mr. Qian to learn psychology-related knowledge when he has time. The 8th day of the first lunar month. I met an old man. I still remember that I promised my mother-in-law last time to meet my grandfather. Because I was too busy, I never went there. It's time to meet him. The three siblings came to visit. This is also the second time Lin Xian has met the leader of the Security Bureau, Mr. Chu. After paying New Year's greetings, the sisters of the Mu family chatted with their grandmother. Lin Xian and Mr. Chu came to the reception study. Take a position. Mr. Chu got straight to the point and looked at the little guy in front of him. Smiling, like a kind and amiable old man. He didn't have any military spirit, let alone a general. But Lin Xian felt danger from this old man. Danger of combat soldier level. Is it exaggerated? He is just an old man, how could he be such a threat? But it is so exaggerated. If in ancient times, who would be the commander of the imperial guards with swords? Okay. Lin Xian agreed obediently and well. Because this is the face of his mother-in-law. The old man in front of him is also his grandfather. Old Chu picked up the cigarette and handed it to his grandson-in-law. The old and the young were both smoking. They talked about family matters and had a good time. The 9th day of the first lunar month. Lin Xian went to work. But he didn't report to the special criminal case team. A transfer order was issued to report to the special department. Lin Xian's heart sank to the bottom of the valley. Is he going to take off his police uniform? When he arrived at the special department, Lin Xian met old Yu again. The old man announced his new position. Effective immediately. Appointment, Deputy Director of the Special Operations Bureau, Deputy Department level. Also, Head of the Special Case Task Force of the Ministry of Public Security. Also, Head of the 9th Special Service Group of the 2nd Bureau of the Ministry of State Security. Also, Head of the 4th Reconnaissance and Security Section of the Security Bureau. Also, Colonel of the Central Theater Command, Army. Lin Xian was disheveled in the wind. Deputy Department. Deputy Department at the age of 23? Some rules were broken again. At the same time, the Ministry of Public Security arrived. Put a medal on Lin Xian in person. The title of the first-class hero of the national public security system. The top honor of the public security system. Lin Xian touched the medal on his chest and almost cried. Finally did it? Got the highest honor of the police and became the top police king. In fact, according to Lin Xian's merits, this honorary title should have been obtained long ago. Why is it harder to get than military merit? There is no way. Because there are only two kinds of honorary titles in the public security system. One is a first-level hero, and the other is a second-level hero. If you give it, you will have nothing. You can't give it again in the future. Because the honorary title is not a merit of several grades. It is a title, understand? How can you be given a duplicate title? So, Lin Xian's police merit has come to an end. If you want to get it again, you can only get 5 chapters. At the same time, Lin Xian's police rank was promoted again. Second-level police inspector. Even the deputy director was given, so is the police rank still a problem? This is the situation that broke the rules and made the big boss helpless. Lin Xian's merit this time was too great. No, when did he not make a small merit? Meritorious service must be rewarded, and it cannot be fooled. Everyone is watching there. If you dare to fool Lin Xian today, others will dare to quit tomorrow. How can this team be led? But none of this matters. Lin Xian is happy. Because he can still continue to be a policeman. Although the profession of police has become a side job and a part-time job. But he is still a policeman after all, and he can continue to solve cases in police uniform. Happy. Office of the Director of the Special Operations Department. Lin Xian sat in front of old Yu, looking like an honest child. Old Yu smiled, looked at him, and asked, "Did you guess it long ago?" Yes, Lin Xian nodded honestly. He had already told Zhou Lai about his guess. He knew that his final destination could only be the Special Operations Department. But there was one thing Lin Xian couldn't figure out. According to common sense, he and the Special Operations Department should restrain each other. Because the bosses need a balance and a degree. How can two knives be put together? It's like there is already a knife hanging on your head that can be chopped off at any time. As a result, you put another knife on your head. What are you playing? Who would do such a thing? Unless. Lin Xian looked at the old man in front of him and guessed something. The old man is going to retire. However, no one can suppress the Special Operations Group except the old man. There is only one possibility for his arrival. Military deterrence. Then, Lin Xian asked a question: how many combat soldiers do we have in the Special Operations Group? Old Yu was silent and sighed. When he looked at Lin Xian, he seemed to be looking at a demon. What a wise demon! Then, he said a number, 824. Lin Xian took a breath of cold air. Shocked. Isn't it scary? I still remember that he just came into contact with the soldiers and fought with them. It only takes a few soldiers to injure him. At that time, as long as 10 soldiers attacked him secretly, they could kill him. Later, I gained experience through battles with soldiers again and again. In the case of a sneak attack, Lin Xian is confident that he can kill less than 100 soldiers. But now, are you telling me that Takeo has 800 soldiers? Even if he is a bad guy, he still has to die facing these 800 soldiers, right? Lin Xian was frightened and stunned. Sudden. He turned his head and looked at the office door. The door opened and a tall figure came. A moment. With his arrival, the air in the office was filled with solemnity. The two eyes looked at each other, as if sparks had collided. Lin Xian knew who he was. Although I don't know the name yet. But he knew that he was the leader of the 824 soldiers. He is 1.9 meters tall, has a strong body, flexible pace, and plain eyes. The other party glanced at Lin Xian and nodded. Gao Yang. Lin Xian. Lin Xian stood up and the two shook hands. Then they both sat down slowly. Yu Lao smiled silently and said to Lin Xian, "You don't have to stay in Takeo for the time being. Do what you like to do. However, you should be able to distinguish what is important and what is important. When Takeo needs you, you must be the first to do it. Report, go back and rest." Yes. Lin Xian nodded, stood up and walked out of the office. Both Mr. Yu and the man were looking at his back. A minute passed until the office door closed. "How is it?" Mr. Yu looked at the man and asked with a smile. The man pondered for a full 10 seconds, "It only takes a moment for him to kill me." Mr. Yu nodded, as if he was not surprised at all. "What if we faced all the soldiers of Takeo? Our special branch will be removed from the list from now on." The man replied, "He will die too." Ha ha. Mr. Yu smiled, very satisfied with the answer. "At that time, I can rest assured. This is the true balance between the two knives. Solving the case is a little bitter, but my sister is super sweet." Author, Kisiun Zhong. Chapter 438. Ministry of Public Security, Supervision and Inspection Office. Lu Yan was stunned and looked at the epaulets on Lin Xian's shoulders. Superintendent too? If it's a third-level police officer, you can also doubt the level. Because there is still a good foundation. But when it comes to the second-level police officer, there are only two possible levels. The main hall or the deputy hall are both at the department level. After coming back to her senses, Lu Yan looked at her little brother's smiling face and scolded with a smile, "Are you here to show off to me? That's necessary." Lin Xian stood proudly and turned around in front of Lu Yan. "Handsome, aren't you?" "Handsome?" Lu Yan nodded heartily. I am so envious that I want to stop practicing martial ethics. Who wouldn't be jealous of the 23-year-old deputy director? But now, no one dares to be jealous of Lin Xian. There is no need to look for parents, the older generation will not come out. Lin Xian himself could hang those people up and beat them. Gone. After showing off, Lin Xian happily walked towards the door. Naughty, Lu Yan suddenly realized it and shook her head with a smile. He came to tell himself that he was still a policeman. Nothing has changed. Special Criminal Case Task Force. The team members gathered around, and Zhang Xiaoyang cursed, Deputy Director. Definitely. They are all second-level police inspectors, so they must be at the department level. Smokes. Lin Xian has become a boss who likes to throw away money. Each member of the team has a cigarette. We must invite you to dinner. Zhang Xiaoyang made trouble. Wang Meng and Guo Su also started to make noises. No problem. Lin Xian nodded, go to my house tonight and let my sister prepare delicious food. There was a fuss. Lin Xian watched as the team members began to go about their business. None of these brothers know. He has changed his job. But that's fine, nothing has changed. People, sometimes the older you get, the more you realize that having good brothers is rare. Even if it is possible that you will not do the same job again in the future. We can't chat together either. But as long as there are such a few people around, I will feel very at ease. Although, he is going into the darkness. But before that, Lin Xian will try his best to cherish the time he can spend with these brothers. Come to your senses. Lin Xian called Zhang Xiaoyang aside and said, take care of yourself after the first lunar month and take you to meet someone. Zhang Xiaoyang? Looking confused and confused. Who are you meeting? A little sister of my sister. Lin Xian blinked, go on a blind date. Real. Zhang Xiaoyang was happy, and the smile on his face could not be described as warm. It was when I met my long-lost biological father that I almost cried with joy. Whether you want to go or not, Lin Xian turned around and left. No, foster father, you can't leave me behind. Zhang Xiaoyang hugged Lin Xian, it's not the second generation, is it? Ah. Lin Xian sneered, what have you experienced that makes you so cautious in your dreams, the second generation? It would be nice to have one. Yeah. Zhang Xiaoyang nodded quickly, I only look at people whether they have money or not, whether they are second generation or not, whether they are beautiful or not. Your ugly face now makes me very unhappy. Lin Xian looked disgusted. What Zhang Xiaoyang said was very beautiful and high-sounding. As far as movies and TV shows are concerned, this is just whitewashing oneself. This piece of shit. Do not. Zhang Xiaoyang handed over the cigarette diligently, father, let's take a cigarette to calm down. Lin Xian was too lazy to laugh with him. This slutty guy is in love right now, and all he can think about is women. It's too irritating, so stay away. At night, everyone gathered at Lin Xian's home. The Mu sisters prepared the meal. As in the past, everyone was laughing and making all sorts of noises. Just when everyone was eating and drinking happily, suddenly, Lu Yan's cell phone rang. No one paid attention at first. Until Lu Yan's face changed, the expressions of others also changed. Lu Yan put down her phone, looked around at everyone, and then looked at Lin Xian. Come and live. I humming knew it, Lin Xian felt that the sky was darkening and wanted to hit someone. Get up slowly. Lin Xian hugged his two sisters. Mu Qingjian and Mu Qingtian patted his back gently. They are used to it. One day Lin Xian can stay at home honestly and accompany them. On the contrary, it will make them uncomfortable. It feels like there was a boy running in the rain. Their mission. Standing behind him and holding an umbrella for him. Walked out of the courtyard and got into a car. Everyone did not go back to the Ministry of Public Security and went straight to a certain tarmac. On the road, Lu Yan said, 13 lives. The expressions of Lin Xian and others were very calm. What kind of storms and waves have they never seen? But I was very confused. If there were only 13 human lives, it would be impossible for them to be dispatched at this time. 13 professions. Lu Yan's face was solemn: nurses, doctors, lawyers, police, rich people, soldiers, students, teachers, workers, fishermen, reporters, electricians, mercenaries. Everyone's faces suddenly changed color. Very strange. Don't say anything else. Among the dead were policemen, soldiers, and mercenaries. Just think about this case. The people below must have been frightened after finding out the identities of these people. Will be reported at this time. All the people present are veteran criminal investigators. Hearing that the 13 dead had 13 professions, they all thought that this case would definitely not be simple. Because these professionals have a lot of things that have nothing to do with each other. Why did they get together? 7 hours later. Longguo Municipality, Shancheng. A helicopter landed slowly. The entire Special Criminal Case Task Force got off the helicopter and got into police cars. They went straight to the Shancheng Public Security Bureau. When the police car arrived outside the Public Security Bureau building, a group of people in white shirts lined up to greet them. They simply shook hands. Everyone walked into the office building, took the elevator, and went directly to the conference room. Countless police officers stood up in the conference room. Lin Xian ignored it and looked at a wall. On a screen, laser projection was illuminating photos. Photos of the dead. After sitting down, a first-level police inspector handed over a tablet computer. There was a detailed investigation report on this case. Open the file. The first thing that caught my eye was 13 personal files. All of them were deceased. Why were they deceased, not victims? Because even the forensic doctor couldn't be sure now. Did these 13 people commit suicide or get murdered? Only if they were murdered, they could be called victims and victims. If it was suicide and it couldn't be determined, they could only be called deceased. When Lin Xian carefully read the 12 personal data, he finally fell on the mercenary data and frowned. This data was not investigated by the police, and ordinary police officers could not have the ability to understand the situation of foreign mercenaries. Instead, it came from the national security files. When Lin Xian flipped through the data and took a look, it's bad, something big has really happened. One of the top 10 mercenary companies in the world, the Cossack mercenaries. Lin Xian's head suddenly became big, and he complained tiredly. Okay, this is the rhythm of another big thing. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Solving the case is a little bitter, but my sister is super sweet. Author, Kisiun Zhong. Chapter 439. Lin Xian recalled a certain sentence again. What God gave you, He will take away something. Rebirth seems to be a surprise, and it also gave you a body of a cheater. However, God also gave you the attribute of bombing wherever you go. Lin Xian continued to look at the investigation report. First, the introduction of the Cossack mercenaries. The Cossack mercenaries are a mysterious and powerful mercenary group. Some people may have heard of Blackwater and Wagner. However, few people have heard of Cossacks. They don't know that the Cossacks were once recognized by the world as the most powerful mercenary group. Even the United States will not easily provoke them. If there are still people who don't understand their strength. For example, in 1999, the Cossacks fought a bloody battle with 2,500 Chechen elites with 90 mercenaries for 3 days and 3 nights. Do the Chechen elites need to be introduced? 2,500 against 90, isn't this pushing with eyes closed? But these 90 Cossack mercenaries persisted for 3 days. 84 people died and 6 were captured. However, Chechnya regarded them as real heroes and real gods of war. They defeated the elite Chechens. Can you believe it? Although these 6 people were beheaded in the end because they did not join Chechnya. But since then, Chechnya offered a bounty of up to $1,500 per person for Cossack mercenaries. What was the concept of $1,500 in 1999? Needless to say, right? When the head and bounty are linked, it has already shown how terrifying the Cossack mercenaries are. But since 2005, the Cossack mercenaries have split. 9/10 of them became the Cossack troops of the Great Mao and were loyal to the emperor. The other 10th ran away. In the name of Cossack, a top and mysterious mercenary group was established. It became a terrifying mercenary group that even Wagner mercenaries dared not confront head-on. Boris, male, 31 years old. The leader of the Cossack mercenary group, the youngest son of Chuplina. Lin Xian took a deep breath. He continued to look at the information while his head hurt. Strictly speaking, Boris was not a mercenary. But his family was mercenaries. So he had the mark of a mercenary on him. So why did this person appear in Longguo? Girlfriend. Among the 13 dead, the nurse, a Longguo native, was Boris' girlfriend. Both of them were engaged and were planning to get married this year. Then, Boris died. His nurse girlfriend also died. The way they died was very uncommon. He and his girlfriend lay in a large bathtub together, and the artery in his wrist was cut by a blade. Both died. But no signs of homicide, struggle, or body control were found at the scene. It is impossible to determine whether it was suicide or homicide. Lin Xian put down the tablet and stood up. Let's go to the scene. Mountain City, Yakuai Manor Villa District. In front of a luxurious villa. The entire villa had already been cordoned off and guarded by special police. Walk into the villa. Lin Xian frowned slightly, smelling the blood and stench. Then, he saw the death marks one after another. On the sofa, on the carpet in the living room, in the storage room, on the dining table, in the bathroom bathtub, in the gym, in the living room on the second floor, in the bedroom on the second floor. The death sites represent the vivid lives that once lived here. Lin Xian began to look, search, and inspect one by one. He was surprised. Because apart from the police and the traces of the dead, he did not find any signs of invasion or leaving. Maybe he might be wrong. But Wang Meng and others investigated for several hours. Everyone seemed to have seen a ghost. No signs of invasion or leaving were found in the villa. There was no invasion, which means that the deaths of the 13 victims were not from the outside. 90% of the time, their deaths came from the inside. What's so strange about this? First of all, you have to understand that killing is difficult. Suppose one person kills 12 people, how do you kill them? Would you think of using poison, drugs, or some tricks? And they also pretended to be the victims and committed suicide. But if I tell you that there is no poison in the bodies of these dead people, and there is no so-called tricks on their bodies, what do you think of each death, which seems to be suicide? How can one person make the other 12 people die as if they committed suicide? What if it was 2 people, or more people? Here comes another funny question. All 13 people died. All died as if they committed suicide. Who would commit suicide if they had a slightly normal brain? How could it be so coincidental that 2 or more people with abnormal brains would gather together, killing people and then committing suicide? Is this reasonable? Is it possible that the murderer fled after killing people? As I said just now, there is no sign of leaving. This means that since the 13 dead entered the villa, no one has left. In addition to the traces of these 13 dead, Lin Xian and his team members did not find any other traces of people. That's why the team members all looked as if they had seen a ghost. Could it be that there were 13 psychopaths who had made an appointment to meet in this villa? Suicide. It's not suicide. Lin Xian stared at the coffee table in the hall with cold eyes, looking at the scattered cards. They seem to be playing a game. Please close your eyes after dark. Please close your eyes when it gets dark. It's a killing game. Since its release in 2007, it has become the world's first SCG game. But later evolved into a variety of ways to play. It can also be played with many people. The game is divided into 2 camps. Good guy camp, police, doctors, civilians. If you eliminate all the killer camp, you will win. Killer camp, if the killers and snipers are all eliminated from the good camp, you will win. Lin Xian squatted in front of the huge marble coffee table and looked at those special playing cards. His super eyesight allowed him to clearly see the fingerprints on the cards. The reason why it is certain that these people are playing games. It's because the fingerprints on it are the fingerprints of normal people holding the cards. Just like when people leave fingerprints on various objects. With greater strength, the diffusion surface will be larger and clearer after squeezing with your fingers. If the force is small and the fingers are not strong enough, the diffusion surface will be small and unclear. From the looseness and clarity, it can be determined whether the person holding the license plate was hijacked, threatened, volunteered, or the scene was forged. There is a lot of knowledge here. But in Lin Xian's eyes, judging by fingerprints, these people are very relaxed when playing cards. The fingerprints are all those found in normal games. Judging by psychology, how could such a group of relaxed and fun-loving people commit suicide? No. Lin Xian glanced at the piece of paper. After observing for 10 minutes, his face darkened. Is there anyone who hasn't touched a card? Solving the case is a little bitter, but my sister is super sweet. Author, Kisiun Zhong. Chapter 440. One person missing? Lin Xian was surprised, observed, and re-examined the entire villa. It was finally determined that the shoe prints at the scene were indeed those of 13 people. However, the entire scene can also be said to be the entire villa. There are only 12 people's fingerprints. One person's fingerprints are missing. Lin Xian contacted the forensic doctor and confirmed 13 deceased people. Confirm the identity of a deceased person who is missing a fingerprint. He's actually a rich man? The scene was then inspected again and no gloves were found. Lin Xian's expression became strange. A man entered a villa. I stayed there for 5 full days without leaving any fingerprints. How did you do that? 5 days. That's right. The 13 deceased people lived in this villa for 5 days. Think about it with normal human thinking. Eating, sleeping, getting up, washing, going to the toilet, all kinds of places require hands. How do you avoid leaving fingerprints without gloves? Feng Xian, male, 38 years old, owner of a private company, with personal assets exceeding 400 million. After reading the information of this rich man again, Lin Xian's expression became even weirder. After investigation, Feng Xian maintained an improper relationship with the teacher among the 13 deceased. To be honest, the teacher is a mistress. Yuan Zili, female, 26 years old, a primary school teacher. Feng Xian's death was also very minor, caused by gas poisoning. When his body was found, he was lying in the kitchen with the gas pipe unplugged next to him. There were no signs of coercion, etc. on his body. Just like he went to the kitchen, unplugged the gas pipe and opened the gas valve. Aiming at his mouth, he sucked wildly. The weird thing is, there were no fingerprints of his on the cabinet door, gas pipe, or gas valve. But his saliva was left at the joint of the gas pipe. There are still footprints left by Feng Xian on the ground. Then, came the death of teacher Yuan Zili. She died in her bed. Cause of death, a piece of candy. The piece of candy got stuck in her trachea and suffocated her to death. Traces through the scene and on the body. There was also no coercion found. You can see signs of her struggling, rolling, and scratching on the bed. Judging from the scene, it can be determined that she was suffocated to death by candy. Weird, right? Here comes a question. Since rich man Feng Xian came to this villa and everyone else participated in the game, why didn't he participate? Why didn't he leave fingerprints all over the villa? Not just fingerprints. Lin Xian investigated again. Except for the footprints, no body tissue, including hair, dandruff, and cloth fibers, was found left behind by Feng Xian. Didn't he have to sleep, sit down and rest, and not sleep in the same bedroom as his mistress? Is this right? This operation is very embarrassing. Lin Xian couldn't figure it out and continued to investigate the traces of other deceased people. The dead man on the sofa, the fisherman. Zhang Haijun, male, 29 years old, unemployed. Unemployed? Then why do you say he is a fisherman? Properly speaking, he is a criminal. He often goes into the Hanfan Lake in the mountain city to fish with his accomplices. The reason why he is said to be a criminal is because he often goes fishing in areas where fishing are prohibited in Hanfan Lake. He was arrested several times, but he refused to change despite repeated admonitions. A vagrant, even a fisherman who is not even a fisherman. Why did he appear in this luxurious villa, and how did he die? Overdose of poison, death. After investigation, there were no traces of drugs inside the entire villa. They even rummaged through the clothes of the deceased Zhang Haijun. No trace of drug possession was found. But he died on the sofa, from a drug addict. After continuing to investigate other death sites, Lin Xian saw all kinds of weird deaths and all kinds of suicides. Finally, he was standing in the bathroom, in front of a luxurious whirlpool tub. Look at the stinky, black bath water and corpse water inside. You can tell by the bath water. There is a large amount of deteriorated blood and water, as well as corpse water after the corpse has decayed. It can be inferred that a corpse was soaked in it at that time. This is consistent with the investigation results of the local police. This is also the place where the deceased Boris and his girlfriend nurse died. There were 2 razor blades placed on the bathtub at that time. It can be found by fingerprints on the blade. The fingerprints on it are very strong and have a large diffusion area. Or the fingerprints of the deceased himself. It shows that Boris was indeed holding the blade tightly at that time. The fingerprint on the other blade was a female fingerprint. From the nurse. Zouling, 25 years old, nurse at a Second People's Hospital in Shancheng. Then judge it by the fingerprints on the blade. At that time, Zouling was also holding the blade with great strength. Through on-site inspection, no suspicious footprints or traces were found. There was no sign of coercion between the two. If judged by various signs on site, it really seems like a pair of mandarin ducks, meeting in the bathtub, and then sweetly, committing suicide. The corner of Lin Xian's mouth twitched, and many suicide-like operations in many cases flashed through his mind. But he was still aroused by the death scene in front of him. Because no matter how he looked at it, he could confirm the death in front of him. It was suicide. So Lin Xian was confused. 2 healthy people, with great youth, and about to get married. Did they drink fake wine, or their brain circuits were too weird, so they committed suicide? Can they play by the rules? Lin Xian was annoyed and left the bathroom. When he came to the hall, he looked at the team members whose expressions were more annoyed than his. What did you find? Lin Xian asked without much hope. Wang Meng looked at everyone and smiled bitterly. Our investigation results are similar, 3 of them were accidents, and the rest were suicides. When he finished saying this, he wanted to slap himself in the face, thinking it was too stupid. But judging by their criminal investigation experience, this is the result. The same result I saw. Lin Xian nodded and laughed angrily. Look at our opponent this time. Everyone nodded. Because no one believed that the death of the 13 victims was an accident or suicide. Boss, what do you think? Ji Yang asked. Ideas. Lin Xian grinned. For now, there are two. Everyone was alert and stared at him. The first one was indeed suicide. Lin Xian said coldly, but it was not a normal suicide. It is likely that they were threatened to commit suicide for some reason, or they committed some accidental murders. Everyone looked at each other, thought for a while, and nodded. The second one, that's amazing. Lin Xian said word by word, there is a murderer who killed 12 people and then committed suicide. Everyone was stunned. A huge question mark popped up in their minds. How can it be done?